in Europe and here in the UK because a rare red warning for dangerous stormy winds has been issued by the Met Office today for Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. Much of Europe, of course, is bracing for a major snowstorm which will bring more travel chaos over the next 48 hours. So let's try to take stock with where we are. Joining me live from Plymouth is BBC South West correspondent Kirk England, Midlands correspondent Navtesh Johal is in Nottinghamshire for us, our Wales correspondent Hal Griffiths in Merthyr Tydfil, Jess Parker is in Berlin, and Will Vernon is at Birmingham New Street Station. So let's start with Kirk, because that red warning has been in place for, what, an hour and a quarter. They're expecting very, very strong winds. Are you already feeling that? Absolutely, that's right. I've been here for about half an hour now. This evening you will really notice the winds picking up in that time as the storm heads towards the UK. The southwest is braced for heavy rain, but also, as you say, exceptionally strong winds. Now, I'm in Plymouth at the moment. We have lower level weather warnings here, but across the border in Cornwall, that rare red warning for wind has been issued. Now, what that means is there is a risk to life potentially, and that is rare that the Met Office has issued that. What we're looking at is probably winds around 60 to 70 miles an hour, but the gusts of winds are the ones that could cause real concern, and those could be up to 100 miles an hour, so between 80 and 100 mile an hour gusts, and that's the concern, and we're expecting that to happen from 8 o'clock onwards tonight, so that's the real crunch time for us. Now, what all of that could mean is damage to roofs, disruption from flying debris, and also power cuts. And that red warning is in place until around 11 o'clock this evening. Now, the Met Office advising people who are in the red zone, if you like, not to drive because of the conditions and to stay indoors. In terms of impact so far, the Cornwall Council has advised schools to close early. And speaking to local radio earlier, the leader of the council gave a very clear message to people. He just said, go home now. Communities then preparing for what could come. Cornwall Council also saying, you know, there could be issues with fallen trees, standing water. So really the situation from the southwest, the worst is yet to come, but people really are battening down the hatches. Kirk, I can see the wind absolutely buffeting you. Let us go to Hal Griffiths in Wales, and how one of the things that certainly they're expecting there is a lot of snow in the coming hours. Here in South Wales, it's already swept in. I'm in Merthyr Tydfil, not on higher ground, but there's heavy rain this afternoon, cold heavy rain. By now, that's falling as snow on higher peaks in Wales, particularly north of us maybe. We could see 20 to 30 centimetres of snowfall. They've already had snowfall earlier in the week, and the concern on Wales's highest peak at Wyddfa, in the Rhodios Snowdonia, as it's known to many, there's an avalanche warning. Now, that is really rare, but the mountain rescue team locally fear that some people will be drawn by this beautiful, new, fresh snowfall and want to scale the highest peak. However, there are already unstable patches there, so people are being warned not to venture up and with across Wales. Several councils have spent the day gritting the roads, going tons of grit down. However, that can only go so far. People who find themselves trapped are being warned not to abandon their cars in the middle of the road, because that will only hamper the rescue efforts and stop gritters getting through. We've also heard from the Welsh Ambulance Service warning people against unnecessary travel, also telling people to ensure they're stocked up on medication, and vitally to check in on vulnerable neighbours, because as the temperatures fall tonight, some people potentially being snowed in. They want to ensure that everyone is safe. Yes, I'll be back to you in a moment, but you're talking about gritting, so let's go to Navtesh, who's in Nottinghamshire. They're at one of those gritting depots, and they have been busy for hours, haven't they, in terms of putting contingencies in place? Absolutely, and just on cue, Matthew, it started to rain here. That rain is expected to turn into snow over the next few hours. We're currently the yellow weather warning here in the East Midlands, and that's going to be turned into an amber weather warning from 8 o'clock tonight, which lasts all the way through till 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, and that's because they're expecting some significant snowfall this evening and overnight, and that is precisely why we have been here throughout today, seeing the gritting lorries you can see behind me there, out and about, covering the 1,100 miles of roads that they're responsible for in grit. You can see thousands of tons of grit behind me. That mountain of it has been getting smaller throughout the day. Each time they go out, it takes about 3 hours to complete a run, so they have been very busy today. They're expecting to continue being very busy over the next 24 hours or so as well. Now, there is a chance, though, having said all of that, that it could be the case that the snow that falls mixes with the rain overnight, and instead of that white, pristine snow that your kids might be hoping for, here in around the Midlands, instead we get more of that wet and slushy stuff. But the warnings have been pretty serious. East Midlands Railway, West Midlands Railway, both saying not to travel unless absolutely necessary. They're not far from here, in the west of the Midlands. In Stoke, they've been saying that they're expecting that could be the worst snowfall they've seen there in a decade. Aptes, thanks very much. Talking about travel advice, let's go to Will Vernon in Birmingham at the station there and take us through the disruption there's already been and what is likely in the hours ahead. Yeah, Matthew, there are lots of announcements here, signs, warning passengers to expect what they're calling a reduced timetable after 7 p.m. today for trains coming in and out of Birmingham New Street Station. So that's more than likely going to mean lots of delays and cancellations. In fact, quite a few trains have already been cancelled. Yeah. Now, in terms of the train providers, East Midlands Railway say they hope to have their services up and running back to normal perhaps by tomorrow morning. Now, that might sound a little bit optimistic because Cross Country Rail, for example, are saying that they're expecting the disruption to continue throughout Friday. And I've been chatting to some of the passengers here at Birmingham who've had their travel plans affected by the storm. Lots of people opting to travel earlier to try and beat the storm. People telling me that they've been sent home from work by their bosses so they can try and, get home before all these delays and cancellations really kick in at about 7 p.m. One guy I was speaking to is planning to fly to Kenya from London Heathrow Airport tomorrow morning. He was really worried about getting to the airport and about possibly, yes, his flight being affected too. I was speaking to a university student who is going to Leicester. Her train was cancelled. She managed to get an early one. She said that her mum's offered to pick her up from the station, which is something she doesn't normally do. So she said perhaps that's an indicator of the seriousness of this storm. So lots of people's travel plans affected. Also, rather surreally, Floria Winkleman's here too, filming an episode of her Town 4 TV program. So that's a slightly surreal addition to all the slightly anxious passengers waiting for their trains. Yes, you're messing with all our minds. Let's head to Berlin. Jess Parker is there. And sorry, Jess, to keep me standing there for such a long time in these sorts of conditions. But right across Europe, they are seeing really, really cold temperatures, aren't they? Oh yes, and it's certainly very cold here. We're living in minus temperatures at the moment in Berlin. Pretty calm, though, here at the moment. We saw a bit of fresh snow earlier on this afternoon, expecting more snow overnight, and there are warnings, for example, for Berlin Airport about travel disruption, train services as well. But it looks like the north of the country is set to get the worst of it. I was looking at the forecast for cities like Kiel, Hamburg, high winds tomorrow, as well as, of course, the likely snow as well. We're seeing school closures in some regions. One of the reasons for that is it's not considered safe for school buses to be running in these conditions. Lots of concerns about road safety, of course. There was some sad news earlier today in southwestern Germany of an elderly man dying after being hit by a snowplow. In the southwest of Germany, what they're particularly worried about actually is heavy rain turning to black ice, again potentially treacherous on the roads. And then in areas like northern France as well, as I say, that storm said to sweep across the channel, then along northern Germany. So northern France has the very severest warnings in that country. So people are bracing for potentially, depending where you are, a difficult 24 hours ahead. But at the moment where I'm in Berlin, it is pretty calm, but it's certainly extremely cold, and that's set to stick around as well. Yes, that's absolutely the case. Let's go back to Plymouth and to Kirk, England. And Kirk, I was reading out a little earlier that the Cabinet Office here had sent out or had organised alerts for people on their phones to give them right up-to-date advice about how to stay safe. That's right. I had an alert on my own phone at around 5 o'clock. The cameraman's went off just after that, and then people have been walking by. The guy just parked. I could hear the alert going off for him as well. So those have been landing and warning people of the dangers, basically, because we do have this red alert for a large part of Cornwall. It is rare. It does mean there's a danger to life, but across the southwest we've got other weather warnings for wind and for rain, including here in Plymouth. Here it's a lower level alert, but you can see the wind is really starting to pick up, but those weather alerts did land earlier on. Kirk, thanks very much. I'll let you get in from all of his. Thanks to all of you there, our correspondents scattered around the UK, and also Jess Parker there in Berlin, and we'll continue to